very fortunate to grow up in the faith tradition that I'm part of now. My parents didn't have that story. My mom grew up, I call it any flavor under the sun. I don't know that she would describe it that way. When she was a little girl, her family belonged to the Nazarene Church, and from there they left and joined the Methodist Church. And if memory serves, I think she was Methodist until the time she went to college, where she met my dad, who was Baptist. My dad had a different story because he, growing up in rural East Tennessee, belonged to a Union church. And the Union church was Methodist one Sunday and Baptist the next. And the way that would work is it was the same group of people, but one Sunday you'd have the Baptist preacher, one Sunday you'd have the Methodist preacher. As time would have it, they moved to Spring Hill, Tennessee, and bought a house on a cul-de-sac, and everyone who lived on that cul-de-sac was a member of the Spring Hill Church of Christ. And so through time and study and so on, and there are other factors there, such as my aunt and uncle being members of the church, my parents were then converted to the Lord's Church and have been ever since. I was about a year old when that happened, so I grew up in the Church of Christ and had to come to terms as an adult with whether or not I really believed what I had been taught. And that's the primary catalyst for the book. I just kind of had to ask, why am I not these other things? And not so much asking, why am I what I am, but why am I not these other things? Well, I guess I began questioning it about a year ago. Our daughter was born on November 19th, 2024. And so that's when I began questioning these things, because our daughter had colic for about the first 6 months of her life, and we were staying up late trying to get her to sleep. She would only sleep on us for about 3 months, and so before we could get her in the crib. So during that time, I was reading a lot, and I was exploring some things. I had been listening to a podcast it's a very well done podcast. I still listen to it today. But it's being put out by a Catholic gentleman. My wife began listening to some podcasts by some Catholic ladies talking about pro-life movement and things like that. And they would spout off Catholic doctrine. And so I just one day asked myself, why am I not Catholic? Originally, the book was going to be called Why I'm Catholic But Not Catholic, and dealing with Catholic doctrine, and the word Catholic just meaning the universal church. And as you'll find in the book, I do believe that there is one universal Church of Jesus Christ, but it's not the Roman Catholic Church, as I have come to understand from my study that I'm sharing with you in this book. So that's really when I began to question it. I didn't have any existential crisis when I was in college or anything like that. I always had a firm faith. But once I got my academic credentials and learned how to engage in true academic study, it's not so much what you believe, but why do you believe it? So that's what prompted all of this. I just had to go back and ask, why do I believe what I believe? And do I have good arguments for why I believe what I believe? I think I've changed my mind on a couple of things, but the vast majority I felt pretty strong in, and I share that in the book. Well, unity is extremely important. In all of Paul's letters, Paul always addresses the topic of unity, whether it's unity within a congregation or from congregation to congregation or within individuals' lives. I think particularly about Paul's letter to Philemon and how he and Onesimus must now have unity and love together in the Lord. So unity is a huge thing, and when you look in passages like Romans chapter 12, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, that say to us very clearly that there is one body. You are either in it or you are not. There's one body, and that one body is unified, where those who make up the body serve different functions. A foot doesn't do what a hand does, and a mouth doesn't do what a nose does, but we're all part of the one body. And what we've done in Christian history is we have divided the body. It really bothers me when people say, what denomination do you go to? Because the word denominate literally means to divide, and Jesus' high priestly prayer in the Gospel of John was for unity, so that we would all be one just as he and the Father are one. And we don't see unity among Christian traditions today. What we see is division, and if you disagree, well, then you can just go off and start your own congregation. That is not the biblical ideal for what Christians are supposed to do. We are supposed to be unified together, we're supposed to love one another, and we're supposed to look at the Bible for doctrine and practice. And if we can't do that, then we go back and look at other principles, and we build our doctrine off of that. So unity is a big deal. And even in the Catholic Church, who claims to be the one true universal church of Jesus, there's not unity there. I've been listening and am very involved in conversations that are questioning the last pope and now the current pope, and the teachings that are coming out of Rome, the teachings that are coming out of the magisterium. A lot of division going on in the Catholic Church right now, particularly over issues of worship and liturgy, as well as some other social things. So it happens everywhere, but God has called us to be unified as one body in Christ. I hope viewers will use this as a springboard to ask more serious questions about why you believe what you believe. I'm very critical in this book, and will be in this series, of the doctrines of both Catholicism and Calvinism. There are areas where certainly I agree, and I think the Bible has given evidence to show that these things are true. But there are some very serious places where not only do I disagree, but I disagree because the Bible speaks directly against these things. And at the end of the day, I do not want to be a liberal or a conservative, and I'm not inviting anyone else to be those things. I just want to be biblical. I want to be a Christian, and let that be it. And so the question that we're going to explore is, how do we do that, and what is it then that we can take with us practically from the Bible and live it out daily and be more Christ-like today than what we've been in the past? That's what we're going to explore in this series, and I look forward to you joining us as we dive into church choices, Catholicism, Calvinism, and one man's search for the true church of Jesus Christ.